Okay, we're going again. Another take. 7,392 this time. Okay, so we are discussing season ahead PLP block number 3. We're calling this one the in-season block. Very original. This block is going to start on January 20. We're going to aim towards the Rebel qualifiers happening on, I did write the date down, on April, I think it's like April 4th or something, that's lasting over the weekend. But that's basically where we're going to on this one. Before we get there, so a lot of the video is going to be discussing that. We're going to discuss PTA Throwdown. And that is coming up in, I think, 2 weeks' time? 3 weeks' time? No. Where are we? A month's time. Sorry. Once workout gets released on that, I think it's obviously very beneficial to practice these workouts. And depending on the types of them, it may have a PTA Throwdown track. This will be like kind of based off demand, whether you guys are struggling or need help. Remember, I am here for that, so please reach out if you do need help. But we're basically just looking at practicing some of those workouts as stimulus. It's a huge advantage to practice these things. So when you go into the competition, you're kind of like ready for it, if that makes sense. It is a 2-day comp. I think it's going to be like a 1.5 day comp. So you kind of expect it to be quite hard on the body. Just a short amount of workout, a lot of workouts over a short amount of time does generally leave you in some discomfort. So practicing those stimuluses up to a certain time will be beneficial. What we'll look to do on that is take out stuff as opposed to add stuff on. So we're looking at mainly aiming at probably I'll say this now, but I would like you guys to do the benchmark. More on that later. Potentially taking out the Monday row for a practice PTA Throwdown workout, and obviously taking out the Saturday comp wads and doing a practice PTA Throwdown workout there. So we'll probably practice the workouts first, which ones you feel like you need to practice, and then do some form of like very similar stimulus, but obviously I won't just repeat the workout over and over. We'll do something similar just to get you used to those like movement patterns and that demand on them as we go along. Okay, that's PTA Throwdown. We got the open after that, and I think shortly after squad games, duos. If you're doing squad games, duos, we won't put too much importance on those two. Mainly one, just because the open is no longer that important to us. I think if you're in the top 1%, you're going to be in the 1% regardless of what the workouts are. We just want to have like a fun community event. We'll tailor the program around it slightly. I found that like people normally add stuff in around the open, like to do extra work on the day. I've never found it helps. I don't think people even do it. We'll probably have either the Friday or the Saturday. You can probably intermix those days and just do just do the open workout that day, and then the other day will be like a little bit of a back off. We'll just do some strength work and maybe a little bit of a sweat. But we're not putting too much focus on the open. Doesn't really matter. We're just looking to have some fun with it and just kind of like practice competing and just give a good effort on it. Squad games is very similar. Maybe more on that. Maybe like a similar PTA Throwdown, but I haven't thought too much about that, to be honest. Okay. So moving into the next block. That block is starting on January 20, and we're essentially aiming for the Renegade Games qualifiers. I think this competition is something that we are looking to really target, and I think it's kind of like going to be the go-to competition of the year. Just hearing what Tom was saying about the teams comp, potentially doing 10 events, a wide range of testing, which I'm a big fan of, which is going to lead into what we're going to do in the next block. So we're going to get you guys as prepared on that. Even obviously we're looking at aiming for the qualifiers. In theory, we're almost training for the competition happening at the end of May already. So good, like a good 5 months of kind of like some good hard training leading up to that as we go along. So we're going to discuss the new block. The main themes of it we actually like as a very general theme of just kind of increasing your work capacity. So there's no main theme or focus necessarily. We're just looking to get you guys like fitter in a broader CrossFit sense, if that makes sense. Okay, so general theme is of increasing work capacity. We're going to have some strength maintenance on the squats, on the deadlifts, on the bench, on our lifting. We're not going to do too many crazy things, but we're also going to have a lifting under fatigue stimulus, which is what we kind of need moving into the CrossFit season. That's generally going to occur more often. And we have on the side of that every Tuesday, we're going to have like a work your weakness EMOM style, which is going to be an EMOM. You're going to get to choose between like 3 or 4 movements and working your weakness under fatigue. Okay, I would say the downside of this block, so we don't have any kind of skill development in a sense of like, hey, if you're really struggling with certain skill aspects, not necessarily a strength limitation or like a capacity limitation, you actually like don't have the skill. So what would be an example for me? I'll use like a single crossovers, for example. There will be like some time to practice that, but this is going to be under fatigue stimulus. So for example, if I don't have a skill, I can't practice under fatigue. It's going to be just even harder. So we're going to look to, if you want to work on a skill, you need to take something out. Remember, instead of adding in, take some stuff out, mainly the accessory piece. If you are looking to do some skill developments, like working your ring muscle ups, maybe like handstand pirouettes or something, whatever it is, this needs to be performed fresh, and not after work or anything. So you want to prioritize skill work. We don't necessarily have it in the block. Remember, take stuff out rather than add stuff in. And if you need to work on those skills, we don't really have time for that in this block. Okay, let's go through day by day. Sorry, there's more on that before we start this. So we are looking at introducing a lot of new benchmarks in. So we're going to start off with a 1K row time trial. The first rowing interval you guys do, you must do this. This is very important. This is going to be basing off. So we're going to go less volume on the rowing, but higher intensities. So we're going to be rowing at a much faster pace, but the volume is going to reduce down quite a bit because we're obviously adding in a bit more CrossFit volume later on in the weeks. We don't want that row volume to kind of tax us too much as we go along. We're going to be running once a week. This is just like a guaranteed do well in a workout because I feel like CrossFitters can't run very well. So we're going to be doing some baseline tests. If you have or you know your baseline tests, you can just kind of join the track pack for those 2 weeks that we're doing the test. It's a 5K time trial. It's a 1 mile time trial. Okay, you're going to need these paces to work off in the coming weeks. The reason why we do these paces is how you get fitter. I don't try run at Julian's pace. I don't get fitter by doing that. I get fitter by running at my pace. And slowly but surely we introduce faster paces as we go along. So if you did the rowing interval, I'll give you an example of this. So slowly but surely we like kind of build your rowing intervals up as we go along, but slowly but surely we'll increase your paces slightly. So if you did the 750, rest 30 seconds, 250, faster than 2K, rest 30 seconds, 250, faster than 2K, rest. We basically did a 2K there, broken up in intervals, but in theory faster than your 2K pace. So we're building some tolerance above your threshold there, and that's kind of how we get you fitter as we go along. So I'm going to be running my 5K paces, I'm going to be running my mile paces, and slowly but surely we're going to chip away at those and make them faster and faster as we go along, as we build up that volume a little bit. Okay. Benchmarks running, yes. We have one kind of, it's only going to crop up once, and we're not going to necessarily train for it. It's going to be a rowing/burpee benchmark. I'd like you guys to try complete this as well. This will be on the Thursday. It's only 8 minutes. And then we've got 2 CrossFit style workouts, which I'm going to try to get you guys to do as much as possible. They might clash a little bit with the PTA stuff, but they are in the first 2 weeks of the block. One is looking at lower body endurance. Lower body endurance and plyometrics, so a lot of jumping. Kind of get you, in theory, it's kind of like our open prep, really. In theory, and prep for like a jumping barbell cycling stimulus, and other ones mostly an upper body press. So we've got some high skill stuff with the barbell and a bike in there. Okay, so we're going to target those as we go along. I think that's everything as we go along. So a lot of benchmarks to start. We're only use these to measure our progress as we go along. So obviously the reason why we do these benchmarks is we're going to retest them later on, mainly the 2 CrossFit style ones, and we'll do the row burpee one every now and then. Okay, so let's move to our day by day as we go along. So this is the new block we're going to talk about. Remember, our main theme is work capacity, strength maintenance, and working some weaknesses under fatigue. Okay, so we're going to keep Mondays very similar. So we're going to do some squat maintenance, we're going to do front squats, back squats, and every now and then we'll touch on some power snatches at a heavier percentage, and just building a bit of volume and stuff as we go along. They'll be like every, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but every like 2 or 3 weeks. Or every 1 to 2 weeks we're doing some form of power snatch, but the front squats, back squats are going to stay the same. We're going to start the block by building up to a heavy on each opposing weeks, and then the Fridays will be some like squat maintenance, depending on like what you've done on the Monday. Anyway, we're going to move over to some row intervals. We're going to keep the rowing on the Monday. Remember, what we're looking for is less volume on this one, and we're looking at higher intensities at faster pace. So we're going to be working a lot at the 1K pace that you guys would have tested. And the reason why we do a lot of rowing intervals, one, rowing obviously pops up a lot. And to be good at rowing, you need to row a lot, which I think is starting to show on the guys who are doing the rowing intervals as we go along. Also, because there's a good transfer over. So if you think about the rowing mechanic, there's a lot of knee and hip extension, which we do a lot of in CrossFit. We're kind of conditioning the body, and it has some like indirect translation over to our other movements. So think about like a body weight movement. You do a lot of box jumps, do a lot of lightweight barbell cycling, a lot of lightweight squatting, picking off the floor. That rowing movement pattern correlates strongly to those type of movements. And kind of building that endurance and time in the saddle essentially should hopefully help improve that as we go along. Okay. There is, what was the accessory on Monday? It was ab work. So we're looking at similar 16-minute EMOMs. This Monday should be actually quite quick because the rows shouldn't be as long. The ab work isn't as hardcore. I really struggle with it. It isn't as crazy as the Saturday EMOMs that we'll be having. It's a lot of like positional stuff. If you're finding that you struggle with your lower back, with your core, these ones are just good for like a bit of health around the lower back and core and stuff. So try get those in as much as possible. Okay, moving on to Tuesday, we have overhead pressing combinations. So we're gonna start working on our split jerk out the rack, and we're gonna build a little bit of volume at the start with some push press. So push press plus split jerk combination, and then we'll move over to some slightly heavier split jerks as we go along. From there, and this Tuesday is your work your weakness EMOM day. So we're going to go through 4 weeks as we go along. So I can't remember exactly, but it's a push, a pull, a core movement, and then the fourth one is a skill movement. You're kind of practicing a skill under fatigue. I'm going to give you options. We're going to try to stick to the time domain as much as possible here. So you're going to work for 45 seconds on the machine, and generally like a prescribed 2K pace on a row, but this could be any machine unless I prescribe a machine that you must use. So it can either say cardio machine, where you can use any machine, or some days it will say like row, ski, or assault bike. Otherwise, you get to choose what you want to work on. You'll have 30 seconds worth of working on your weakness. So what's the first one? The first one is a core movement, I think. And this is between GHDs, toes to the bar, and V-ups. You pick which is your weakest one. I know the GHD is a bit of an odd one currently. But generally, like for me, I can fit on the GHD. Like for example, if like your hands are sore, your shoulders are sore, you can't necessarily hang on to a rig. You can always do V-ups or GHDs instead. You still get a very similar stimulus. You work for 30 seconds and only 30 seconds. You try to do as many reps as you can, essentially, and then you rest the remaining 30 seconds. You just start the next 45 seconds on the machine as you go along. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I haven't written down the accessory stuff. I can't really remember what it was for today. I think it's an overhead press accessory. Remember, this accessory stuff's very important, guys. The accessory can make a big difference in your general programming or like ability. So if you're like looking to increase capacity in toes to the bar, handstand push-ups, pull-ups, these kind of bodybuilding style accessory pieces can make the difference for you as you go along. So it's just kind of good for some general joint health and stuff as we go along. Now we are adding in a little bit more here. So on the Tuesday, unofficially or officially, there's going to be track back essentially. So we're going to start off with those time trials, the mile time trial, the 5K time trial. The reason for this is one, I think, because we are moving into like in-person competitions where we're probably going to see running pop up a little bit more. And it's just like, as we saw in Coachella, like running is a free workout to do well in, if you are running. And I feel like you only need to be running once a week just to get used to the stimulus. I think at Renegade Games, speaking of 10 events, there's definitely going to be a longer run there, without a doubt, or some form of running. You guys saw last year, running a lot. You guys did well in the running workout at the semifinals. Guys can't run. Run once a week, you'll be fine. That's the idea behind it. It's also going to translate over to a bit more body weight endurance. This can happen. It doesn't necessarily have to happen on Tuesday, but you try to fit this in the week sometime. I think some days are a bit shorter than others. If you're feeling fresh, maybe add it in another time of the day, another time of the week. But this is very, very important if you guys can do this. Just if you want to get better at running, again, you must be running. It's a simple thing. Wednesday, we're going to be looking at some form of like power clean and jerk combinations, but mostly we're going to be looking at lifting under fatigue without really taxing your body too much. So lifting under fatigue stimulus for me is very similar, whether to I'm lifting weights that make me tired or I'm doing some form of cardio that make me tired. So because it's low impact on the body in general, we're going to be doing a short like sprint on the bike or row or run. and then lifting quite a heavy percentage in a power clean or a power snatch to give you guys a stimulus of what that's feeling like. That's going to be part of our actual strength piece. So it's kind of like a double Metcon day, excuse me, where you potentially gain like high heart rates in 2 intervals. And our Wednesday, our main focus is going to be kind of like some mixed intervals. I basically ran this up, but the main theme is going to be hinging with a lot of burpees in. So we're looking at a lot of sandbag stuff, we're looking at deadlifts, a main hinge, some barbell cycling, some only barbell cycling, but we're going to probably be adding in some shorter sprinty style intervals, mainly around hinging, barbell cycling, sandbag cycling, and adding in some burpees in there potentially with a little other combinations depending on where we are in the week. Maybe some gymnastics in there as well. Okay, and that is our main theme for Wednesdays. We're just looking at kind of like a higher output in that. So there should be kind of like shortish, repeatable intervals, and we get kind of a lot of rest, but you're just going to practice the idea of like kind of going fast, but doing that hinging movement pattern as we go along. Okay, our Thursday, I know these back days aren't very popular amongst you guys, but because we are doing Wednesday CrossFitty stuff and Friday CrossFitty stuff, that Thursday break is actually very, very important to give you guys a bit of a break. Okay, this can either you add in your run, you can maybe add in another cardio piece here, but we do need to get some exposure to the back erg. Now, what we mentioned earlier in the video was kind of like working above your threshold pace to increase that VO2 max and your lactic threshold slightly. This is actually what we're doing on the back the whole time. So we have like alternating weeks of going above your threshold pace and coming back down and learning how to recover at a certain pace and then going back up again. Also, you get some exposure to the back. The back erg does creep up in a lot of competition style. I feel like if you haven't got used to it, it's a bit of like a different stimulus to an assault back. You get a bit more of a quad pump. I think just to get some exposure to the back erg is very, very important. So if you guys can sneak this in, please try. But remember, it's very important to have that rest break in between Wednesday and Friday's training. We're also adding in we did this on the first block. We're adding in grip work again on Thursday. Just for mainly some like elbow and wrist health, but also just to kind of get used to that grip stimulus again as you're going along. Just some strong forearms always help. Okay, Friday, back on the squat maintenance. We're looking at some tempo work to start and some pause work to start. And then alternating weeks of squat snatches and squat clean and jerks. Okay, that's what we're looking at. And every 3 weeks, we're going to take a break from the squat. So this Friday, we'll just have nothing there. Just either be a squat snatch or squat clean and jerks. Just to give your body a bit of break. So squats are kind of aggressive, but we're going to have a break every now and then. Not even necessarily in the deload week. I think every 3 weeks, we deload every 4. Okay, but that was that just to give you guys an idea if you see squats that are not there. The CrossFit interval tests, what we're going to be looking at is like a similar time domain. So we're going to be looking at around like the 12-ish minute mark. We're going to obviously look to increase these benchmarks without directly actually working on it, if that makes sense. So benchmark number 1, I can't remember exactly what it is now. One of them is a lower body day. Lower body, so you've got clean and jerks, ascending ladder of clean and jerks, double unders and box jumps. So a lot of plyometrics, a lot of jumping. A lot of high heart rate movements, moving a barbell at the same time. And the posing benchmark is the next week. It is a shoulder overhead ring muscle up, assault back, triplet, and repeatable. So we're looking at doing 3 rounds of that, resting as long as it took, and then doing another 3 rounds. So looking to still work while we're tired. Saturday, that's Friday's stuff. Saturday, we are just touching on deadlifts and bench press again. So we've gone through a whole deadlift block now. I forgot to mention. The Wednesday, we're kind of expressing that deadlift work. So because Wednesday is hinging, we've built a lot of strength around the hinging. We're going to try to increase that muscular endurance now by making you guys do it under fatigue or do it while you got a high heart rate or do it in a Metcon. So touching on deadlifts, touching on bench press. And what we're going to do, we're going to throw some classic Matt Fraser, hard work pays off EMOMs in here. We're going to do 40-minute EMOMs on Saturday. So reason for this, 1, some of volume accumulation. So what we realized from Coachella, there was a lot of volume in the 2 days, and the intensity was quite high, and that kind of made guys a bit stiff and sore. So what these kind of longer EMOMs do is, one is they accumulate quite a bit of volume, and you're also tired at the end of the week, so you kind of have to push through doing these EMOMs under fatigue, and what that should hopefully do is prep you for a competition when, hey, you're on the last like 4 hours of your weekend, you still got another 2 workouts to go, you got to dig deep into your 40-minute EMOM capacity and get it going through there. So these are going to be mostly building some endurance around 2 cardio machines. I'm going to try to get you guys to row, try to get you guys to be on the salt bike as much as possible, unless I specify otherwise. And we'll have 2 movements in between that, which should be taking about 30 seconds or so. And this is going to start off, we're not just going to throw you directly into the 40-minute EMOM. We're going to start you off at 28 minutes, build you up to 32, and then probably sneak a 40-minute EMOM in there on the 3rd week. Every deload week we'll have a 28-minute EMOM with a minute rest in between, but slowly but surely we'll build up to that 40 as we go along. So again, just looking for some volume accumulation under fatigue, just to kind of simulate the competition weekend. And these, what I also want to try to get out of this is almost like a small like community vibe. So you almost want to like suffer with your friends, suffer with your training buddies on this. Not very fun to do by yourself. So if you can get your buddies around, your training partners around, let's try to get everyone to do these EMOMs together if we can. It's a lot of fun together. You build some cool, what's the right word? Camaraderie. There we go. Saturday we'll also add some extra pressing in, so we'll do some dumbbell bench press on those extra days as well, on the accessory stuff, so we can add a lot more pressing in as we go along. I think it's just some dumbbell exposure on the bench press. You never know when they're going to pop up again as we go from there. I don't think I've left anything out, but that's our main thing. If you have made it through all the way to the end of the video, fantastic. Remember, any questions or anything, this is kind of like why we are doing things. I think it's kind of important to understand and the reasoning behind things as we go along. I think we got some cool feedback from Facella. And this is kind of what we're trying to implement to improve things, especially as we go into the comp season, to get you guys as ready as possible. Okay. If this is on the YouTube channel, like and subscribe.